About 2,400 years ago in ancient China, there lived a legendary doctor known as Bian Que. During the Warring States period, he traveled from state to state, practicing medicine, saving countless lives. People believed he could bring patients back from the brink of death, and in later generations, he was even revered as a god of medicine. Many stories about Bian Que's medical achievements have been passed down, including astonishing accounts of him replacing a person's heart. No matter the authenticity of the story, it reflects how people viewed his extraordinary skill as a doctor. But today, I am not here to talk about these medical miracles. What I want to talk about is something else: how Bian Que, as a doctor, judged the true level of medical skill. In the mind of this legendary doctor, what makes the best doctor? In the text Guan Zi, there is a story about Marquis Wen of Wei, the founding ruler of the state, who once sought Bian Que's advice on medicine. Marquis Wen asked, "Among you 3 brothers, who is the best doctor?" Bian Que replied, "My oldest brother is the best doctor, my second brother comes next, and I am the least skilled." Marquis Wen asked further, "Can you explain why?" Bian Que said, "My oldest brother can detect the disease before it even appears and eliminate it, so his fame never spreads beyond his household. My second brother treats a disease when it has just begun to show, so his fame rarely spreads beyond the village. As for me, I only treat patients when the disease is obvious, using bloodletting, acupuncture, and strong medicines, so my fame spreads throughout the state." Marquis Wen was deeply impressed and decided to have his chancellor govern the state using the same principles as a highly skilled doctor, applying the idea of treating problems before they grow to managing the affairs of the country. As the story shows, even Bian Que did not consider himself the best doctor, yet he was celebrated by people as the greatest. His name even became synonymous with legendary medical skill, and we often praise an exceptional doctor by saying, "Bian Que is alive." Anyway, he is certainly one of the most famous doctors in Chinese history. Later generations connected Bian Que's idea that the best doctor treats illness before it arises, with Sunzi's thought that a skilled general first ensures he cannot be defeated, and summarized it as, "The best generals leave no glorious deeds, the best doctors leave no famous names." This idea of unseen excellence still applies today. Take, for example, how I approach skincare and acne treatment. Imagine I'm lying in a dermatology clinic. A doctor is disinfecting my face, using a needle to lance a pimple, and extracting pus with professional tools. For particularly severe inflammation, they might even use anesthesia. If I come out of that skin surgery without infection or scarring, I would clearly consider this an excellent dermatologist and give them a 5-star review. But aside from those rare severe cases, I usually visit my beauty therapist every 2 weeks. She gives my face a deep clean, exfoliates, moisturizes, massages, and finishes with a mask that repairs and tightens pores. This kind of facial care keeps my skin healthy, removes excess oil, and reduces the chance of blocked pores and inflammation. Of course, if I live in a scientifically healthy way, watch my diet, avoid fried foods, exercise regularly, practice self-discipline, sleep well, and carefully cleanse my face daily, I might not need to see a dermatologist or therapist at all. Think across those 3 scenarios. If a doctor simply tells me to live healthily and exercise every day, their status pales next to a skilled physician who can pierce the stubborn, evil pimple with one swift move. My healthy lifestyle is the most sustainable and effective approach, but it often feels useless because the results are slow and sometimes even invisible. From time to time, I can't help but wonder, have I been working all this time for nothing to show on my face? Visiting a doctor, on the other hand, is a last resort, a pricey solution, yet it delivers instant results. The ultimate solution to acne just mirrors the philosophy of yin and yang in traditional Chinese medicine, which emphasizes overall body balance and preventative care. Yet by their very nature, these conservative treatments cannot compete with the impact of emergency interventions like surgery when a problem becomes severe. The choice on preventative care versus reactive treatment isn't just about skin. Just as扁鹊's older brothers could prevent illness before it appeared,扁鹊could only treat problems when they became obvious. Unsurprisingly, this approach, whether intentionally or not, was used by certain people as a way to enhance their own status and reap the greatest profit. Take the now strictly regulated overuse of antibiotics in medical treatment as an example. In many cases, antibiotics are prescribed even when they are not truly necessary, because such prescriptions benefit hospitals and doctors, and because patients appear to recover quickly. They create the illusion that the treatment is highly effective. By contrast, conservative treatment seems slow and inefficient. Patients appear to suffer more, and doctors may even be blamed for not doing their job. A similar pattern can be found in today's widespread anxiety marketing on the internet. When there is no problem, one is invented. When the problem is small, it gets exaggerated. Eventually, everyone is led to believe that the issue is serious and widespread. And then, the same people conveniently present themselves as the ones who can provide the solution. Impressive, right? The same logic also appears in the workplace. An employee who quietly does their job well every day without making mistakes is easily overshadowed by someone who appears capable of detecting and solving problems. Yet those problems may simply be the result of that person's long-term negligence, or worse, problems they themselves created or allowed to grow. It's just like antivirus software that can never completely eliminate viruses. Why would such software need to exist if there were no threats at all? So it was once said that some antivirus companies deliberately release viruses themselves to make products seem useful. Of course, in many cases, dealing with problems only after they appear may simply be a matter of necessity or a risk management strategy developed through experience. For example, a software engineer once shared his experience with taking client projects. Early in his career, when he encountered unreasonable client demands, he would first try to persuade the client to reconsider, but more often than not, the client would interpret this as a lack of ability. Over time, he learned a smarter approach. Even knowing that the requirements would cause problems during implementation, he would initially agree to them, but leave room in the code for adjustments. Then, if a client later wanted to change the requirements, he could charge extra for additional work. In such cases, clients were usually happy to pay, realizing that they were essentially covering the cost of their own mistakes and had little choice but to comply. In response to such phenomena, Laozi had already identified the underlying pattern and proposed how one should deal with it. In the Dao of Jing, he summarized it this way: to make something shrink, one must first let it stretch. To weaken something, one must first make it strong. To abolish something, one must first help it rise. To take something, one must first give to it. This is called subtle insight. Soft and weak overcome hard and strong. Yes, this is Laozi's subtle yet clear wisdom. How far-sighted Laozi was. The principles he summarized apply to all things in the world. To make something shrink, one must first let it stretch. When a pimple first appears, we cannot just pop it. Doing so too early can leave a scar, and it won't come out clean. We have to wait until it matures before we can remove it properly. In other words, to pop a pimple, we must first let it mature. I learned a similar lesson with drinking. I used to love drinking just for the slight buzz it gave me. Even though I knew it could sometimes cause trouble and harm my health, I couldn't always control myself. That changed after one party. I drank heavily out of courtesy, blacked out, and woke up feeling awful, with my life and studies seriously disrupted. From that moment on, I made the firm decision. No matter the situation, I would never drink excessively again. Looking back, I feel lucky that I realized this at an early age. Both experiences taught me the same principle. Sometimes, to deal with the problem effectively, we must first let it reach its natural stage before we can bring it back under control. To weaken something, one must first make it strong. When someone we care about has flaws, even with good intentions, pointing them out directly often doesn't work. If we do, they might not listen and could feel criticized or targeted. It's wiser and more effective to wait until they experience the consequences of their actions and learn the lesson themselves. At that moment, change comes from within, not from being told what to do. Guidance offered too early meets resistance and can even backfire, while guidance offered at the right time becomes genuine help and support. To abolish something, one must first help it rise. If we want to bring down a powerful rising rival, sometimes all we need to do is praise and flatter them, letting them become so intoxicated with their own importance that they lose sight of their true limits. Their arrogance drives them to take on what they cannot handle. Their stubbornness pushes away those who genuinely wish them well, and their pride leads them to offend others without even realizing it. How far, then, are they from downfall? As the saying goes, whom the gods would destroy, they first make mad. To take something, one must first give to it. When pursuing a romantic interest, we must first show our own charm, being attentive, offering gifts, and earning trust before we can win affection. In business, some companies attract customers with discounted prices to secure larger and ongoing orders. Many free trials use this same mechanism to attract customers, offering initial value to gain trust and engagement. On a darker note, why do Ponzi schemes always manage to fool people, even the smartest, most highly educated, and the wealthiest and most powerful among us? They begin by delivering small returns to lure investors in, creating the opportunity to take far greater gains later. All these examples are practical application of Laozi's teachings in everyday life. These four strategies all embody the wisdom of soft and weak overcome hard and strong, by using gentleness to overcome force and weakness to prevail over strength. One works with the natural patterns of things, acting in accordance with the flow of reality and achieving success through skillful means. How can the soft overcome the strong? Because this is the way of all things. Everything carries in and embraces yang. The world exists through the interplay of opposites. each side depending on the other. When a thing manifests one side, its opposite is always hidden within it. So, to move something toward one extreme, we must first allow it to swing toward the opposite. This is exactly what Laozi meant by reversal is a movement of the Dao. The two poles of a thing transform into each other while remaining unified, the unity of opposites. This is inevitable in the process of development. Before something eventually reaches a negative state, it first shows its positive aspect, and before it reaches a positive state, its negative side is already present. At this point, I suddenly understand why Laozi opened the Dao of Jing with the lines. The Dao that can be spoken is not the eternal Dao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. As the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. No matter how good the principle is, how profound the words, or how noble the motivation, once it is written and seen by the public, it will, for sure, be interpreted and applied, sometimes as wisdom, sometimes as technique, sometimes for good, sometimes for evil. Laozi surely understood this truth. As people say, wherever there is evil in the world, there must also be good. When someone falls ill, there will naturally be a doctor to treat them. Conversely, when people pursue beauty, ugliness must exist as well. Beauty and ugliness, black and white, good and bad, positive and negative, yin and yang, these are all two sides of the same whole. Perhaps Laozi repeatedly wrote about the yin and yang of everything and analyzed opposites, not to teach us something or to make us study duality, but to say silently, look, this is one side, this is the other, yin and yang, taiji, this is it, now forget both. It is time for the truth.